Good afternoon. I'm John Dowden. I'm with NEC, Advanced Recognition Systems, and I have a presentation on biometrics and video analytics with a great emphasis on video analytics. And it probably will not take all of the 90 minutes that has been scheduled. So I'll go through the presentation. You can ask questions after the end. All right. Okay. So I'm John Dowden again. I'm the Senior Product Manager for NEC Advanced Recognition Systems. Overall, the biometrics and video analytics is a rather large marketplace. It's over $30 billion annually. So there's a number of vendors, some that you see in the exhibit hall who go after this around the world. And there's very many different use cases for biometrics and video analytics that we go after. And my presentation really deals at that at a summary level. Okay? So what we'll be talking about is, one, give you a brief introduction, kind of a marketing summary of our group, and then I'll go into the technology. I'll talk about the feature and benefits of video analytics, and then finally I'll give you a few examples of video analytics systems in practice. Okay? All right. So the first pitch, my group within NEC used to be called the Biometrics Solutions Division. And then earlier this year, we kind of went through a rebranding purpose. And the reason we did that is there's a number of biometric systems that we have delivered. We provide biometric systems to the city and to the state. And we also have overall, we have about 200 biometric systems around the world. And they mostly deal with fingerprints. They do deal with facial recognition. But we're kind of seeing the change. And the big change is, instead of being, kind of post-incident, capturing bookings from live scan stations, doing, latent print searches to solve crimes, we kind of want to be more proactive. And that's why we rebrand ourselves from the Biometric Solutions Division to the Advanced Recognition Systems. So one of the big things is advance. We want to be ahead of the game. Kind of the big motivation is we want to work with public safety, not to solve crimes, but possibly to prevent crimes. So that's when we be advanced. All the technology, research and development that NEC does, that's what we want to bring to our customers. Recognition, if you think of NEC, you think of biometrics, you think of facial recognition. And that facial recognition can be identification, it can be investigation. So that's what we want to provide. And the other thing with NEC, not so much here in the United States, around the world, we are a systems integrator. We really bring you that over enterprise solution for the technology you bring to us to address your specific use case. So what is our new mission? People, patterns, predictions. Okay, so people. We really want to serve the citizens and the people who protect them. We want to provide you with intelligence that you can use in your job going about the community policing that you'll be doing. Patterns. If you look about law enforcement, from investigation, community policing, you see patterns. And we bring that to you with our biometric technology. But we really want you to help crime, strengthen our national security. NEC, we provide our biometric technology to federal law enforcement. And we really want to make your business, your mission, more effective and efficient. And then finally, predictions. We really think we can give you the intelligence, especially from our video analytics, to really help you predict potential threats and resolve them. And kind of the motivation for us to change our name from Biometric Solutions Divisions to Advanced Recognition, it's really some of the recent events that we have seen, from the Boston Marathon bombing, the Orlando nightclub shooting, even possibly what happened in Las Vegas, a couple of weeks ago. We really think our video analytic technologies can help you. Okay. All right, so much for the marketing pitch, really focusing on technology. So when you look at biometrics and video analytics, really they're predictive technologies, okay? What I mean by that, if you look at biometrics, it's usually looking at the probability of match between that search probe and that database candidate that you have. And that's what we really get, is that probability. And if it's a probability, we can use that in prediction. We can also use in analysis, getting metadata that you can use for your intelligence. That's what video analytics can bring. So when we look at biometrics technology, biometrics is used for automatic personal recognition and manual based on biological or even behavioral characteristics. It's used for identification, especially fingerprints. We have national databases on fingerprints that we use. You can also use it for commercial applications, for authentication or verification. Biometrics serves that well. As I kind of talked about earlier, latent prints. You can use biometrics for investigation purposes. And starting today, you can use fingerprint technology, you can use facial technology. One of the big system changes in our industry within biometrics is really different modalities. Not just delivering systems with fingerprints, but combining them together so you get a multimodal system. And also fusing the different results from the different modal searches to really find you that correct person. Whether it's for a verification to enter a building or solving a crime, we can use that. So what are examples of multimodal biometric systems? Okay. Probably the best one that comes to mind, especially for law enforcement, is the FBI CJIS Next Generation Identification System. What are the modalities that it has? It has friction ridge. Friction ridge is really a fancy term for fingerprints and for palm prints. Your fingerprints and palm prints have ridges. Where they stop in or break away is called minutia. That is what we use for the biometric matching purposes. So you can use that for 10-print ID. We can do criminal arrest bookings. Who is that person? Does he have a criminal record? That's a good example. You can also use in the crime lab, searching your latent prints, either against fingerprints or against palm prints to solve that crime. Some of the newest technologies, including the FBI, they brought in facial recognition. If you kind of look at the FBI system, they have about 80 million criminal fingerprints in their system. They probably have, not as many, maybe 50, 40 million faces in their system. A couple of years ago, the FBI had a pilot on iris recognition to use that. It has a number of different use cases you could use in law enforcement. It's really good for jail intake and release. And also in addition to those, the FBI has, it's not for the NGI system, but they also have DNA to identify people and possibly solve crime. Moving over, Department of Homeland Security, for their IDENT or for their upcoming HEART system, they have a fingerprint system. It's a little bit larger than the FBI's. It probably has anywhere to about 180 million fingerprints or on subjects who come into the United States. So it's good for 10-print ID. They also use that to solve crimes. They run latent prints against that database. They also have facial recognition that they use. And they also have done pilots with iris recognition as well. When anybody comes into the United States, especially from a foreign country, they have to go through the U.S. visit entry process, where they capture fingerprints and they capture the face on everybody. And DHS is building a database that they can use to identify new visitors coming to our country. They are also using it to check off people as they leave the country. And that helps improve our national security. Okay? So when we talk about moving from biometrics to video analytics, if you look at video analytics, it takes advantage of all the video cameras that we have here today. There are some in this room. There are many throughout the convention center. About a decade ago, there was a movie, see if you can identify it, that really took advantage of video analytics. Does anybody recognize this movie? You probably can't hear the sound on it. But this is Minority Report. Okay? And they're identifying Tom Cruise as he goes through this entertainment mall. They're giving him personal content ads to deliver it. That's all based upon video analytics. They're using facial recognition and they're using iris recognition to recognize him and give him personal content. And during the course of this, they kind of see that he has a bad day and they ask him, do you want a Guinness? That's how it can be kind of be used. That's what video analytics can give to you. Not so much for law enforcement, but that's one of the use cases. So when we look about video analytics, and it's sometimes called video content, it involves the autonomous understanding of events in the video in order to reduce the burden by removing the uninformed data for subsequent analysis to augment the given task for monitoring, logging, and action. So if you kind of look at a high level, what video analytics can be used for is identification, detection, and monitoring, alert notification. These can happen automatically. And you also can do metadata and extraction collection. If you go to like a mass transit center, to the command center, they will usually have a huge video wall. And you will see hundreds of displays of all the video feeds. And the operators, it's just impossible for them to look at all those monitors and see something unusual. That's very hard to do, whether it's mass transit, public safety, computer-aided dispatch center, very challenging to do. With video analytics, we can automate that to bring those alerts to people. There's different type of video analytic technologies. There's dynamic masking to kind of mask the subject in it, pretty good for privacy. You can also, with cameras, notice flame or smoke detection. You can actually analyze where the camera is from based upon the video output signal. But one thing is you have motion detection that you can use to notice activity within a video camera. And that's really good. You can notice it when it comes on, turn it on, bring that to the operator. You can also do shape detection, object detection, circles or squares. If you look at some of the advances, and you'll see this on the floor of the exhibit hall, you can tell the different makes and models of the cars going by. And that would be important for Amber Alerts, also for overall police investigation. Again, we have object detections, notice person cars, different colors, different shapes. And finally, we have what we call multi-mode recognition, based upon face, license plate, or number plate recognition. And then finally, we actually have we can tell the different video broadcasts, where it comes from broadcast, whether it's private, whether it's surveillance. We can tell that by analyzing the signal. We can also tell whether the signal has been tampered with or not. We can actually, based upon what comes into the video frame data, get a geo-time date stamp on that. And then another thing is if you notice an object and it's moving through, you can track that as you go through the video scenes or clips in the system. So that gives you a whole bunch of different use cases for law enforcement. And this is kind of a good summary of it. You can do facial recognition to identify people. You can notice objects left behind. You can see people going over perimeters, going into new areas, going over fences. You can actually count the number of people in a space to determine when you have a crowd that you can control or you can't control. You can identify suspicious people. You can identify lost people. And finally, you can track their movements within a large space, such as a convention center, airport, mass transit center. If you kind of look at the overall environments, what can it be used for? Crime prevention. You can do watch list monitoring. You can monitor for suspicious behavior. If you look at it in a retail sense, people come to a mall, they park their car, they go into the store, but we can notice using video technology, we have a person going from car to car, we can generate alert on that, and then you can address security to come address them. Also, you can do accidents preventions, from falling down, vehicle intrusions, in monitoring facilities. And finally, you can use it in border control sense, illegal or congested detection. So when you look at video analytics, it can be used within a metro or urban environment. It can readily be used in law enforcement. You can use it at ports of entries, both airports and seaports. You can use it for mass transit centers, for railways or buses. And then finally, you can also use it for large venues, such as stadiums or hotels, and especially convention centers. Next slide. So what are some of the scenes that we can use? Well, the main one for video analytics and for NEC is really identification detection. Positive identification based upon facial recognition, again, as well as objects. Persons, vehicles, license plates, we can drill down even to what type of clothing that they are wearing, the color. Okay. The other thing you can do for is really crowd counting, demographics, and estimation. We can look by the people coming in, what is their age, what is their gender. For commercial purposes, even facial expressions is possible, and we can track them as well. We can even tie what are they wearing from eyeglasses to headgear. That's all possible with video analytics. Okay. But the main thing for, really for large spaces, we can kind of do two different things. We can look for the faces, for the objects, and we can really very accurately determine the number of people in a given space. The more cameras you have cross-correlating the data, the greater accuracy you will see, and you can actually begin to estimate density looking at their thermal signature that comes by. It's all possible with video analytics. Okay. Again, we kind of mentioned motion pattern analysis. We can tell the flow of people. So you can imagine a concert or people going to a stadium. We can monitor the flows. We can monitor irregular flows as well, people going through the system. That's all possible. Okay? And then finally, we can measure the behavior. We can notice when people are going into a system, where the direction their activities, or whether they're going across. As you see in the upper right-hand corner, you have people running across railway tracks. We can generate alerts on that based upon that behavior. Or people going from car to car can generate an alert. Okay. If you want to learn more about video analytics, one good place to go to is really the National Institutes of Standards and Technologies. They do periodic testing and workshops on video analytics. This year they released, after about a 2-year effort, they issued what they call an interagency report on faces in video, especially in non-cooperative settings and for subjects. They also, about a year ago, down in San Diego, had a workshop on video analytics, kind of addressing the challenges that may come forward. In the faces in video, and this is really a follow-on to all the tests that NIST periodically does on facial recognition starting in 1993 with the ferret, they kind of invited all the vendors to come through and look at blind testing. It wasn't controlled testing where it's fairly controlled and you have cooperative subjects. It really more focused on the non-cooperative subjects. If you look at facial recognition and using cameras to capture that face and search against a database, that's pretty easy to do. The subject is usually cooperative. You think of applying for your driver's license, how cooperative to get that driver's license or ID card, you're fairly cooperative in doing it. But what becomes more of a challenge is in video in spaces where you have video cameras at different heights and you have people come through, they're not cooperative for different reasons. You have families going through airports, they have children, different heights, you have challenges, the architecture, the entry-exit point. It's pretty challenging. And this kind of shows you the difference for the vendors implementing facial recognition video analytics. When it's cooperative, it's fairly easy. You can use those for identification, investigation, but when it's really non-cooperative, you have a number of challenges. Lighting can be a challenge, angles, multiple subjects. You want to do it quickly, especially for throughput. If you think of the airport, to identify people for entry, exit, you have a high throughput. You don't want to slow that down. So that's why NIST kind of looked at this. And they kind of looked, the first one was the passenger gate. Noticing people going into the area or out. They kind of did a test. They ran about 480 use cases against it and seeing if you could identify that people at the first position. And that is quite possible today in that subject to go off and do it. You look at the next one, your sports stadium, a little more challenging. It's not as controlled as an airport. People going every which way, people going to the snack bar, people going to their seats, the VIP areas, going to the restrooms, a very controlled thing. A little more challenging. The match rate, not quite as high. Okay? And then the really thing, if you look at technical advancement, we just don't want to look at hundreds, thousands, millions of people, because we do have large events happening. And then also you want to look for those interesting objects, like left behind backpacks. If you look at within an airport, look at luggage that is left behind, from people for whatever reason. This is what we can use video analytics for. So if you kind of look at video analytics, if you kind of look at it, what you're really doing, the main thing is, again, detection, identification, and convergence. And then also probably one of the primary results you can get out of it is really surveillance and watch list monitoring. You can look people against a large database, or you can focus down and have a specific database gallery for different purposes. People coming in the area who should be there, people who are not recognized, and you can generate alerts. Okay? So let's drill down a little bit more. What are kind of some of the components of a video analytics solution? Well, the first thing you need is you need to have video cameras. And some of the existing vendors, like Axis, Bosch, Pelco, Panasonic, they can run video analytics at the edge or camera device. They can do motion detection, they can do audit tracking, they can do tampering notifications, even detect audio or not, and they can bring that back with the video to the central site. And really having those features at the edge, it really enhances the overall operation of video surveillance. Then one important, you have all these streams coming to the central site, you need to manage that. That's why you have video management systems. We can get all those video feeds in, and then you can make them available for the operators. That's usually why you have those video walls, and you can turn on and click off what you have presented by the different streams. And some of the things they can do there, they have motion detection. They can also bring in license plate recognition, multi-viewing, and from with the VMS, you can even do changes in the pan, tilt, or zoom of that camera. And more importantly, they have archival and storage capabilities for all the feeds that come in per their business rules. So it really gives you that central site command control communications, computing, and also intelligence. So you get that intelligence for your operation, and that could be beneficial. The other thing what's starting to happen in the industry is really, with information communication technology vendors, it's providing digital evidence management systems. And this is where you see video analytics typically happen at the central site, is integrate those video streams in real time from different cameras and start collecting metadata and archiving that for subsequent purposes later on. So you maintain that digital evidence, it allows you to go into court, present it, and you have that integrity, authenticity for court presentation. So that's what digital evidence management can provide you. The next thing which you're kind of seeing, and it kind of follows on NCIS or CSI, is what we call digital criminal analysis systems. It's very similar to DEMS, but it provides more video content analysis, metadata extraction, and then post-incident investigation. So as you process that video, you build a database of items of particular interest. Who was driving that particular vehicle in that area? Who is also had left behind objects? You can notice that. And that really allows you to solve crime through intelligence-led policing like you see on the TV shows. The other things you can do is you can tie it all in together. You see a number of system integrators, IBM, Accenture, they're doing that. And you can integrate not just video analytics, but also the data analytics. You think of some of the databases that law enforcement has, criminal history, records management, computer-aided dispatching. You can mirror up the two, and that gives you a rich database that you can use for intelligence gathering and for investigations. That's what video analytics can do for you. So when we talk about it, what do we kind of see that would be part of a video analytics solution, especially for digital criminal analysis? Well, what you want to see, you want to have a system that's going to bring in all those available surveillance and video feeds. You also want to have a portal where citizens can upload the images, the video that they have captured. Most people have a smartphone. Quite often, they snap video, they can upload that. You have private commercials, they can bring along data as well. And finally, you have VMS systems that are getting the regular feeds. So you want to have a portal that will allow all those feeds to come in, to examine those data, to go through, to do facial recognition, do object detection, behavior analysis, do that, and you build up that database. And then you can choose where you want to store it. Again, you kind of see here, we want to really wrap it all in together to have other databases in there that come from RMS, CAD, and LPR. You bring it in there, you can do real-time monitoring, you can do post-incident investigations. You can actually go through, especially using facial recognition, identify those people if you choose to do that. You can set up business rules to generate different alerts. If you have within an area, like for a filed protest, for a parade, you can count the number of people in a space. If it gets above a certain number, 100, 2,000, 1,000 in a given space, you can generate to law enforcement. Other threats as well, you can do it. And finally, give you the tools to do system administration. And that would serve public safety, law enforcement. You can do it for emergency management. You could do it for mass transit authorities. So if you look at digital criminal analysis and benefits, we really want to have an open architecture because you see we're going to get these feeds from different agencies. Not one agency, typically within a metropolitan environment, owns all the video assets. So it gives you a chance to do citywide surveillance, and you get all that media that come from it. You can get images from other databases, passport, driver's license, bring it in, and then finally you can get it from other people coming in. One thing that we've seen is really the growth of body-worn cameras. How do you get that data to come into it is a big question. Then also, if you look at the offline assets that's available, on the web, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, we can make this available for your use. If you kind of look at really video and analytics really kind of answers those basic questions we learned early in school. Who? People detection, identification. What? Object, activity, event, behavior, and relationships. Where? What was the area? What was the space? Where does it appear on the globe? We can do that. And when? Time and date. Then also pertain to your mission, your scope, those little important items of interest. We can do that with video analytics. Okay. So what are some essential components to make this happen? Really at the central site, you're going to need computer. Every stream, every clip, think of it we have today. It's not uncommon to get 5 megapixels from a camera at 50 frames a second. So you have to go through that. And if you want to do it 24/7, it's going to take some computing power to go through that. Most of the vendors in video analytics, they've done a lot of intelligence to kind of do it in an intelligent way. Not to do it 100% of the time. They can look at those frames, see when there's new objects, new faces that come into it. If it's just a static image, they can really turn that away. The other thing you do for video, since we're talking about megabytes and gigabytes of data, you do need a network that can bring it all in, because we're talking about a lot of data there. Then also, there's a lot of changes in camera technology. And then again, the sources. It's how many sources you really want to have, whether they're regular, fixed, or being uploaded. And the other thing is really, when I have smart software that has a lot of intelligence, again, going through processing that data, it's very important. Okay. And then finally, in the end of the day, we have to give that data to people, right? So we have a lot of data, we have a big database, but we want to make it available to really give you an interface that makes it easy, because in the end, people are going to use this data. So we're going to present to you for like real-time watch list monitoring. We can give you it in graphs that kind of do people counting for posts. We can estimate crowds, demographics. We can give you an interface for investigation to search those to do your classic crime work investigation. Now, some of the challenges we see for video analytics is really body wearable cameras. A lot of agencies are purchasing them. The good, it's compact. You get high definition capture, broad field of view, and typically they store on the device maybe a shift and a half of captured data. That's good. What's the challenge? Not a lot of them are real time. All the data is stored on those devices, so they have to be uploaded where they come in. And again, it's only 720. High definition. It's not 1080 or higher. Sometimes it's not even 720. And really to do facial recognition or to do object detection, we really like to have a higher resolution come through. Okay. So the other thing about video analytics, and probably a lot of people are aware of that, is privacy. Citizens may ask a lot of questions. George Washington University, at their Privacy and Technology Center, about a year ago released what they called the perpetual lineup. Kind of asked, there are privacy concerns. But the Bureau of Justice Assistance within DOJ, this month, early release, what they kind of came up with a policy template. And it's about an 80-page document, and there are 30 pages, which is a template, to really come up with a policy to address privacy concerns. And if you're going to be deploying a facial recognition or a video analytics solution, this would be a good template for you to come up to have that. Because if you decide to deploy a system, you're probably going to be asked privacy at one point or another, either by the press or by your Public Safety Commission. Okay. And then one thing, probably the biggest thing you can do is you may not want to run facial identification in video analytics to analyze people. But what you can do is you can just detect by looking at the face, not identification, how many people you really have for crowd behavior and control. And this is going to give you additional security, management control. It's going to address privacy, and it can help you really prevent, kind of dangers to the public. So this is a little video, and it should kind of explain to you how it will work. So again, efficient reliability and security will ensure privacy. Again, help predict, threats to the community. So you look at all the rapid growth, especially over in Asia, with the density that they have. They kind of want to look, they're using video analytics to really look for accidents and for incidents that happen in their public spaces. So as you have this congestion higher, it becomes more of a need, and their police forces are quite responsible for providing that on-site response. So using all the cameras, we can do a fairly good job of recognizing the people in there. And we don't identify them. We don't know if they're Jane Smith, Joe Smith, Steve Jones. We just count the number of people in there using the different technologies. So where is that good? It's good for stadium, for metro centers, for airports. And then as you look for those accidents or incidents to happen, you can generate alerts. And that really helps you kind of do efficient management of your law enforcement or security details. And again, you can bring all that data into a central site. So it allows for efficient operations. If they notice anything abnormal, you can generate an alert. Again, the main thing using this way, you kind of realize those privacy goals because you're not identifying people. You're really just counting the people in the space. And you're starting to see, what we're starting to see overseas is really governments beginning to make investments for these systems. Okay. So let's talk about some systems that we've seen that are provided. Here in Pennsylvania, there's run by the state police. There's what they call Pennsylvania Justice Network. It's an open architecture. It uses the NEAM database, and it's used by every single law enforcement agency. And it has many different applications, not just facial recognition, but other ones for information exchange. But in particular, they do have a mugshot database, and they have capture, live scans would contribute to it, and it's available on web, and they can run a technical search on that. Also going from a workstation, they can process video to help generate a tip and lead to solve that crime. And that's how they use it in this situation. Okay. NEC for Tiger, which is a tourist attraction in Buenos Aires. NEC came up, and they really took the 200,000 video cameras that they had in this, and they tied it all together. Before, they didn't have a video management system. We created one and did that. But they also brought in, real-time surveillance, license plate recognition, behavior detection, even watch list monitoring. And some of the benefits that they noticed from that is, for crimes that would happen because they had that video data, they were able to solve 35% more crimes. You get that reduction. One thing they did using the video analytics, they were able to decrease car theft because people realized in the area that they had real-time video surveillance, and they also had surveillance capability. And Tiger the Tiger City near Buenos Aires, it really became for the rest of Argentina as well as Latin America an example of a safe city, which makes it better to live, work in. Okay. Some other vendors, Brazo County, Panasonic. They were able to take their body-worn cameras with their mobile data computers in the car, run evidence collection, so anything that they gathered, they could go through that. It would go and back into evidence management system, but not it was just for law enforcement. It was available to the courts, to the attorney general, for the prosecutors, where then they could exhibit that as far as their prosecutions. The results, you had complete mobile evidence collection of the items that came from the mobile, from the body-worn cameras, from the vehicle car cameras. Then also you had these large plasma screens in every single courtroom where the prosecutors could present the video evidence that they had on subjects. So it really gave you cuffs to court system for capturing and managing, displaying digital evidence and help lower crime and get greater convictions. Another example of it, and kind of similar, Convention Center. And it's the United Kingdom's National Exhibition Center. It's near West Midlands. And they have a large, it's about 200,000 square meters of convention space, very large. And they went through a major overhaul of it. And it was done by Genetec, Axis, and Agent VI. And they put new cameras in, higher resolution, 3 megapixels to 5 megapixels. They also had in other areas infrared capture as well. And they had a large video storage management system, 120 terabytes. They also had auto license plate recognition. And it tied all together. They had a mesh network with a lot of broadband capability to take all those different cameras that they have and bring it into the system. And then finally, they had an operational center where they would monitor 24/7. What is it? They really got a user-friendly system. Before, it was all manual, radio, very tough to do it. They also had control of all the doors from that central site based upon the video feed that they would get. Also coming and going, they could do real-time traffic control of the 42 different lanes that would come into the convention center and away. And it really gave them the capability to do real-time crowd management, zone monitoring, and as well as business intelligence for both law enforcement and for retail purposes. Okay. So conclusion, just wrapping it up. Video analytics, it really gives you the capability for real-time detection, identification, and convergence of that data. You can do surveillance and watch list monitoring. You can also do metadata collection and analysis. It's just not NEC who's doing this. If you go up on the convention floor, you will see a number of companies that do this. Accenture, Axon, Body-worn, Genetec, Panasonic, WatchGuard, Motorola, Oracle. They all have video analytics solutions. Some are at the edge, if you look at the camera vendors. Some are at the video management system with Genetec. Others are at the digital evidence management layer. These are all available and encourage you to go see it on the floor. Okay. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I'm not quite sure what you're saying as far as the DMS goes. Is this something, do you have something that is in addition to a DMS milestone?
Yeah, if you look at the solution diagrams, because you don't want to buy something twice, right? Because these video management systems, very expensive part of the system, we can tap in through that. We can have an application programming interface, so we can go in and get that particular stream. We can get it partially to go through, analyze it, extract the information we do, so we don't have to necessarily store it twice. We might temporarily store it as we go through our content analysis, but we don't have to store it twice. And with one vendor, we do have a functional API, and we're trying to do that with more vendors. Good question. What?
I have one more too, by the way.
Go ahead.
And that was the situational recognition. Do you have to program that in, or does it come with the ability to identify some sort of incident? I'm thinking like a stadium sort of thing, where there's a fight that breaks out.
Right.
Does it recognize that? Do you have to program something into it?
So the way we kind of sell these systems, what type of video analytics do you want to be? Facial recognition looks at people. If you want to look at, say, behavior and objects, we have to sell those different algorithms and set up those portals and processing services in the overall solution to go through. So that's why these aren't necessarily, especially for metro areas and for law enforcement, they're not necessarily commercial off the shelf. They take a lot of customization. And you have to go through a requirement specification definition phase to figure out what you want. Okay. Any other questions?
Do you have a facial recognition, a proprietary facial recognition solution?
We do have, yeah, we do have a facial recognition product. NEC is called NeoFace. We do offer it through either directly or we provide it through our partners.
Is that on-premises or is that SaaS?
We can provide it both ways. Okay. Okay. And it's 2D. Right now, NeoFace is 2D. It's image-based. We generate our templates that we use for searching. That gives us our accuracy.
SaaS, so in your SaaS model, would that process
Domestically, yeah. I mean, it's where we can put it in the cloud. So I'm not sure. I mean, but we actually deliver it, and we got it implemented around the world. Okay.
Now, my question is relative.
On premise, no. It's anywhere in the cloud. So for a federal agency, we're doing it at different. We're doing it at different sites, and it's being done in a commercial cloud provider. And they have it at 2 of their government cloud sites, primary and backup. Did that answer your question? And we can also do it on site here as well. Yes, sir?
What are the privacy advocate organizations' primary issues against the use of these?
I think the biggest thing is it's where did the agency that has the database, where did they get the subject photos? Did the people opt in when they did that enrollment? Were they aware of that it was going to be used for facial recognition? Is kind of the general question that they are asking, right? That's their main consideration. Also, do you let people know on site? I think usually most facilities let you know that they're doing video surveillance. They have a sign that you have to be a deterrent to crime, right? But they may or may not choose to let you know that they're doing facial recognition, right? And I think the privacy groups want to see that transparency. The other thing is if you create an enrollment of a database of facial recognition, how easy is it for a subject to opt out? Those are kind of the questions that they're knowing. The other big question that they ask, anonymity, do you give that person that option? That's what they kind of feel here at this particular level. And then what are your retention rules for that? The other thing is for the operators who have the opportunity to run a technical search, what are the business rules for that? If you look at law enforcement from the FBI, they want to make sure that you have probable cause or you have the legal right to run that search for that particular situation, and you need to keep auditing of that. Because facial recognition, it could be abused for the wrong purposes. You don't just want random searches happening. Those are the questions that they're asking. In the document from the Bureau of Justice Assistance, it really addresses those use case scenarios and what you need to do to have in your system. Okay? Good question. Yes, sir?
That question as well, there's the issue that the purpose for which they give that information, whether it's facial or fingerprint, that it's used only for the purpose for which it was used.
Right.
That's an issue.
Right.
Question is, the presentation talked about public safety and all that. I work for Canada Border Services Agency, so we are using those tools as well. But one of the elements I found, because of the population, particularly in Canada, and I know in the United States similar, is that privacy is a very important democratic right and all that stuff. But one of the ways we presented it is not only for the safety, security, but what are the benefits for the individual as well.
Right.
And very practical stuff came back
Right.
I think that was a suggestion that was made, is even in the context of law enforcement, I would see that it's also, if you face recognition gives you a positive in the sense that this is a no-risk individual, that means that the interaction between the law enforcement and that individual are minimized to probably just a random check.
No, and I think you bring up a good point. I mean, you look at for border control, you look at airports, especially in the United States, you tend to wait to go through TSA security for check-in. And what they want to use video analytics, in particular facial recognition, is really for a frictionless or tokenless, movement, whether it's entry or exit. So for you, when you recognize those people and they've been through a vetted process like global entry, TSA pre-check, you can recognize those. So they haven't been, there's a lane for the people who have to go through the full process. If you have been vetted, there's kind of an express lane for you to go through. And not so much be tied to that boarding pass, right? That boarding pass can, it takes time to scan and process that data. That's a good point. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So one thing we have this afternoon, if you want to see some demonstrations, if you want to ask some additional questions, NEC, we don't have an exhibit on the floor. We have a private exhibit, and it's really along the Gateway Bridge to the Marriott Hotel. It's in Independence Hall 3, and here's a better examination through it. From the top here, you are kind of coming through, I think the old Reading Terminal, I believe you call it. And then you can enter the ballrooms coming into it. We are in the ballroom that's kind of above the Hard Rock Cafe. And we have our facial recognition. We have some of our video analytic products. You can come in. If you want to talk about the NIST test reports a little bit, we can drill that down for you. Anyways, that will be from 3 to 5. We'll have beverages and snacks, but we would really welcome you to come on down and talk more with us if you're interested. Thank you very much.